in support of that cannabis industry. You just have to check his Twitter account and you see those photographs and his comments there. Well, other issues that we should be looking for from the finance minister is expected to dive into the country's economic abilities and his stability as he delivers the budget speech today. One of the issues that continue to push the economy on a downward spiral is youth unemployment. The Eastern Cape currently has the highest rate of young people aged 15 to 34 who are not employed and or educated or training is staggering at 47.1%. The bleak future of youth unemployment in the Eastern Cape, particularly in non-metro areas, hits hard as local municipalities in the province struggle to deliver basic services, while the Provincial Department of Education is struggling with a number of education issues like infrastructure backlogs, overcrowded classrooms, and specialist teacher shortages. So from the Nelson Mandela University, our reporter Lerato Fekisi is there. Let's find out who she has for us. I know she has a guest and is going to be talking to this exact issue. Lerato, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and I think that you definitely hit it on the nail, that the Eastern Cape in terms of youth unemployment has now reached a disastrous level. We are currently sitting at 47.1%, and I mean, it's early morning. If you drive through the townships of the Eastern Cape and PE, you'll find young people walking around helpless, hopeless, because they can't find jobs, Leanne. And more importantly, you also find young people or young graduates who also can't find jobs. But to put things into perspective for us, we are here at NMU. We're going to speak to Professor Ronnie Ncwadi, who is the Director of the Department of Economics and Tourism here at NMU. Mr. Professor Ncwadi, I think it's fair to say the Eastern Cape youth unemployment is now at an alarming rate, 47.1, the highest in the country. If there was a time for government to act, especially ahead of today's budget speech, it's now.
Yeah, indeed. The Eastern Cape is facing a huge problem of unemployment, especially among the youth. This includes even the young graduates. The Eastern Cape, the thing is, it's two double-edged sword in the sense that young people that are graduating in the Eastern Cape, they simply leave the Eastern Cape because there are no job opportunities. They go to other provinces which are already growing, and that means that the Eastern Cape cannot grow and it cannot create jobs. And of course, the marginal social benefit of our investment in education in the Eastern Cape is actually reducing because those young people are not applying back to the province simply because there's simply no jobs for them. Skills that we are producing, though the supply side talks to that, but the demand side is not talking to that because there's no investment flowing into the province, and therefore we need to ensure that we try and garner so much investment to be able to create jobs for these young people and retain them. We need that retention strategy for the young people.
Professor Ncwadi, you speak about skills, which is a huge factor here in the Eastern Cape, that we've got a skills base that doesn't accord to the economic challenges facing the country. Yeah. When we speak about universities, what role they play in terms of developing skills to speak to these challenges?
I want to respond to this. I always challenge this whole notion of structural unemployment in South Africa, even the province, because I think we've got about 4 universities in this province, and all of us are actually providing the skills that are needed in the Eastern Cape. For instance, agriculture, there's also maritime studies and skills that the province need. But the problem is the demand side, is that we produce these skills, but there's no vacancies for them to occupy, and therefore they go elsewhere. So we need, therefore, as much as we supply from the universities, but the demand side as well must be attended to, which would be nothing else but what the state president mentioned in the State of the Nation address, where he said that he wants to pull in more investment in the country. But those investment, it matters where they are being distributed. They mustn't only be stuck in Gauteng, in the provinces that are already doing well, but they must also spread to the Eastern Cape to ensure that we benefit from that flow of investments.
You speak about investments in a metro which has got political instability, which also plays a huge role in terms of economic growth. How do we draw investors when politically things are crumbling in the metro and the Eastern Cape as well?
What's important, in any country, to solve your problems is fiscal and monetary policy. But I think there's one that's very important in South Africa right now, which I hope the Minister of Finance will talk to. That is the structural problems that we need to face. For example, your ESCOM, SOEs. How will a guy come and plant his firm in a metro where he knows that for 6 hours I will not be operating? Yet I'm actually facing the fixed cost. I need to pay my staff, I need to pay the overheads. Yet I cannot produce anything because there's power outages. So it's important to deal with the issues of SOEs as well as the structural problems that face the country continuously.
You spoke earlier on about agriculture. The Eastern Cape is currently facing a drought. Agriculture is one of our huge economic drivers in the Eastern Cape. With climate change, how will this affect the economic growth of the country, especially in light of the drought facing the Eastern Cape?
The climate change talks to global warming. We've got extended cold months, we've got extreme hot summer, and extreme droughts. So the only way to address that is actually ensure that we invest, for instance, in water project, the Umzimvubu Dam project, which we need to ensure we intensify the investments in that area to ensure that we supply, for instance, irrigation scheme, and that the droughts do not have a severe negative impact in our agriculture. Only thing that can face that can help us to deal with global warming is investments towards that angle, which I think the president of course is very much into investment drive in this economy.
Professor Ncwadi, are you aware of any really good youth development plans that are happening in the Eastern Cape that are helping to curb youth unemployment?
You know, we have a provincial skills development plan. Officially, I'm a member of that, where we come together and discuss with government as to the skills that are in the Eastern Cape that are needed, as well as funding opportunities for those skills. I think that undertaking for me can take us far if we can intensify that undertaking and ensure that business becomes part of that, and then together we can actually be able to come with solutions that can address youth unemployment in the Eastern Cape.
Lastly, what are you expecting that the Minister of Finance focuses on in terms of growing the economy of the Eastern Cape this afternoon during his budget speech?
We're facing huge problems. You know, for example, theory tells us that when economy is actually doing bad and is low, we need to have expansionary fiscal policy. But I do not think the minister can do that because our debt to GDP ratio is amounting to about 70%. So therefore, we can't go expansionary fiscal policy. We're going to have to go contractionary, which is now a problem because you can't grow the economy if you apply contractionary fiscal policy. So I think the minister will have to find ways in which we can raise the revenue, which I think it might actually increase the tax. But in all that, I don't think it would be wise for him to raise VAT. But maybe you should find spaces where he can try and raise tax. But we can't go borrowing, we can't go increase the debt anymore because we are already swamped in debt. And he must face, of course, to address ESCOM, energy supply, and make sure that the budget talks to sectors that's going to grow the economy.
That was Professor Ronnie Ncwadi from the Department of Economics here in NMU, saying the Eastern Cape is full of so much potential, but key to growing the economy is to draw investors. But key to drawing investors is to make sure that SOEs such as ESCOM are doing their job properly. For now, let's go back to in studio.
All right, Lerato, thanks very much coming to us from NMU and giving us the perspectives from all over South Africa is what we're trying to do here, to try and get your reaction. We've also got our question out there of what you're expecting from the Finance Minister, especially with regard to taxes. And I think the really big one is VAT. Will the Finance Minister increase VAT or not?